Music is part of our daily lives, and of course every person would really love some music to be surrounding them. Now, because of these results, majority of the people have decided to commercialize, to use this advantage to commercialize it. And remember, when we are talking about the commercialization, we are talking about large numbers, and you want this sound to reach out to majority that's of the people right there. And in this regard, we have a gadget that is included in here, and that's the amplifier. Did you know that we have locally manufactured amplifiers in Uganda? We have a story of a gentleman called Mbabazi Moses. He tells us his story. What really inspired him to start manufacturing amplifiers in Uganda? And these are amplifiers that are competing with the with the foreign imported that's amplifiers. He designs them from scratch with the motherboard. And of course, he's making some good money out of this. And today we want to understand the technology behind the amplifiers. But above all, what is his story like to where he is till today? That and more coming up. If you generally buy a stereo system as a complete unit, perhaps from a local big box store, then you might not be concerned over what's inside your boxes and how it comes together. But if you're the type of a person who shops for separates, this program may be useful to you. A person who builds a stereo system from scratch, piecing it together one component at a time, ultimately has a greater challenge in their minds than the person who walks into a shop and leaves with a new stereo system in one box. But the challenge of putting together your own system from scratch can be definitely more rewarding. How so? You might ask. Well, by purchasing your system as separates, you can fine-tune the sound to suit your specific tastes. In Uganda, we have largely been dependent on imported electronic equipment, a trend which has been adjusted as Mbabazi Moses and Kabagambe Nicholas, through their engineering experience and skills, are participating in manufacturing these amplifiers locally.
I was in the primary 6. Okay, I love these things of music and that line. So my uncle gave me an amplifier when I was actually back in the village. I was still in the village, primary 6. So it was, I didn't know much about how to repair these things, but I had the spirit. I wanted to know more. So my uncle gave me an amplifier, and then it was at night. Somehow I joined the wires and it died. The transfers got broken. So I had to, there was no money first of all. So I took the amplifier to a technician in town. He charged me 40,000. Boss, that was much money, by the way. 40,000, and he only replaced 2 transistors. I never forget the name. The number was TIP 41 and 40C. 41C rather. 41C and 42. 41C and 42C. 2 pieces. He charged me 40,000. It was really a lot of money. But of course I had goats, and what I sold my goats to go and repair an amplifier. And then it kept in me. I said, no, I must know this to another level now. So I had to went to school, finalized school. Then after senior 4, even I said no, I can't proceed, I can't go anywhere else. Let me first branch. I went to Nairobi vacation. To Nairobi vacation, actually, there's a friend of our family friend who was, he did in Makerere engineering, but then me, I wanted a quick course. I go for the degrees later on, but when I have this with me. So I went to Nairobi vacation. By then, I think it used to be under Germans. So they had good instructors. So I went there, I did my course. It was a 2-year course. I finished it, and I did well. So from there, I realized that I don't need again to go that side. So I said no. So I had to do an advanced certificate, which is equivalent to senior 6. And then from there, I did, from advanced, of course, I opened up a workshop. And I saw, in reality, that money is when you are using your hands, not when you are employed by someone. To get good money, you manage yourself, you manage your time, you manage everything. It's you.
Like when I was young, I was in primary 4. I had the Walkman. You know Walkman, you still remember that? It was called U-Safe. U-Safe, it was green in color. So when it got a problem, by that time I was living near the border, near Uganda and Rwanda border. It is called the Katuna. So I had to take it to the border to be repaired. So the guy overcharged me. And the only problem was the other rubber thing. So the tape couldn't roll. I said, now, next time if it gets a problem, I have to work on it by myself. So what happened is this thing, the next time, I had to open it myself, and I discovered that it was the same issue. I fixed it myself. So I said, okay, so that's how these guys are eating my money. From now and onwards, I'm going to do a lot of research so that I really do more than this. I started. It was P4, P5, P6.
Power amps come in all shapes and sizes, including integrated amps, where they are combined together in a single chassis with a preamp. What follows applies to all other amps, regardless of their status as stand-alone or integrated.
Just like Japan, almost 90% Japanese, they are skilled. So I said no. And I wanted to go to Japan actually. My end just was like, let me go to Japan. I go there and do my further studies from there. So from the other guy who cheated me, I said no, I must rectify this. So I did amplification. I've been doing it. So it's a very good business, and it's very good really, because we meet serious challenges, but there is a very clear way. Now that my president introduced, he has put in not too much power, too much force actually I should say, to create for us this market of East Africa. My target market, of course, it's been in Uganda, but now, thank God, we have stretched to East Africa. So I know very well we have got to Uganda. Mention them, all the countries around us. Because I've moved around, I've been in Nairobi, I work in Nairobi sometimes. When you look at them, they are not like us Ugandans, they can't sink to that level. So we have a big market. So Uganda, East Africa, and Africa at large is still virgin. We'll have enough market here.
In 2000 there, after senior 4, I came to Kampala here. There was a vocational training institute called the Goro Vocational Institute in Kamocha there. I did a certificate there. You understand? So from there, for 2 years, from there I started the workshop in Bukoto there. Then from Bukoto, I came to Ntinda. I had a little bit of issues. I was a driver part-time. Then in the evening, I used to come in the workshop down there. So up to now, that's the same thing I am doing. So I am quite sure that what I am doing, it's my passion. I just love it passionately.
A power amplifier is the driving force behind the loudspeaker. It receives a low voltage input signal from the source component, or what we can call a CD player, and it increases the amplitude of the signal to a point where it can drive the loudspeaker to audible volumes. Over the years, there have been many different innovations in amplifier design, many leaps forward as it were. It all started with vacuum tubes back in the 1940s. In the early 70s came the transistor amplifier. Now we have digital amplifier technologies involving Class D, three-path, and N-code designs. I will be exploring the different designs at a more detailed and technical level in upcoming series, but for now, I just want to give you the basics to help you make a more informed buying decision. Interestingly, different categories of Ugandans are purchasing these locally manufactured amps.
Right now, our clients are Ugandans, but we are looking forward to go outside Uganda, like Congo, like Kenya. By the way, within 2 weeks' time, we will be in Kenya to look for the market. Yes, sir.
There are many parameters by which amplifiers are measured and judged, and these include bandwidth, efficiency, gain, linearity, noise, and stability. No amplifier will perform perfectly in all areas of performance, which means they mostly sound different and mostly have applications to which they are better suited. So for the sake of simplicity, let's group together the different amp technologies into 3 broad categories, then see which is going to be best suited for your particular application. Category 1. Vacuum tubes. They carry a valve in the term commonly used in the UK and Europe. Category 2, solid state. It includes all variations of transistor designs, MOSFETs and JFETs. Category 3, digital amps. Includes class D, T, ENCO and so many more. Many people believe that vacuum tube technology disappeared with the old CRT TVs in the 1970s. Nothing could be farther from the truth. There are still a large number of manufacturers designing equipment based on these 60-plus-year-old circuits and still are viable. A number of manufacturers making the vacuum tubes. And of course, many based in Russia and China. Tube amps, as they are often termed, can offer more deep, rich and musical soundscape, particularly through the mid-range frequencies where some of their sonic attributes are most apparent on vocals and stringed instruments. They suffer inherently from a little frequency extreme roll-off and from a low damping factor. So generally, they are not suited for driving larger diameter cone drivers in bass woofer applications. At the top end of the frequency spectrum, they can sound a little rolled off too, just like in the last bit of musical air and detail. But in terms of the sheer musicality, they are hard to beat. Tube amps tend to be better suited to driving more efficient loudspeaker systems where 25 to 50 watts is sufficient to drive the speaker to ample volume. High-powered tube amps are available, but they tend to be expensive. Maintenance is a definite factor when considering the purchase of a tube amp. The tubes require replacement after a certain period of time, typically 1,000 hours and above. And retubing an amp can be very expensive. For sheer musicality and mid-range presence, liquidity, beautiful on vocals and strings. Against requires an efficient speaker design in most instances. Maintenance can be expensive, not great at the frequency extremes. The first practical electrical device which could amplify was the triad vacuum tube invented in 1906 by Lee DeForest, which led to the first amplifiers around 1912. Interestingly enough, we still use similar tube technology today, over 100 years later. But today, most amplifiers use transistors, which were invented in 1947. An interesting fact is that there are more unvaried tube amplifiers produced today than any time in history. Amplifiers are made of multiple sections, each with a specific purpose or function. This is regardless of whether we are talking about the tube type or solid-state amplifier designs. Basically, an amplifier is made up of a power supply which consists of a transformer and voltage rectifier. This portion of the amp converts the AC power from the wall and converts it to DC, which is then utilized by the output stage at the amp. The process of this understanding, however, sounds complex, combining both financial capital and technical aspects.
To be with the brains, the head. Secondly, you have to be with some capital. Then the third thing, you have to be with a workshop or an office where you can, like a genuine office where there is every tool that you need to make an amplifier. But the head is the most important thing.
You find that very interesting? I guess you did, and that is something to do with, of course, the locally manufactured amplifiers in Uganda. You've heard Babazi's story. Okay, now away from that, at this particular time, we are going to get into a short commercial break, and when we return this time around, there is another innovation that we are going to be exploring. Stick around, I'll be back.